Welcome to Storytime with the Intimacy Ally. Each episode will tear down a myth, kick a social norm in the beanbag, gut punch a sex ed untruth, or destroy a poorly constructed relationship expectation. Get ready to unlearn all the crap you accepted as fact. Strap in for a mind-blowing revision on what sex is and what it can do. Prepare yourself for a whole new thought pattern when it comes to modern relationships. And now, here's your host, Jenny Simas, the Intimacy Ally, relationship expert and certified sex and intimacy coach.
Hello, my lovelies. Welcome back to Storytime with the Intimacy Ally. I'm Jenny Simas, aka the Intimacy Ally. So yesterday was Valentine's Day, and I hates it. All right, fair enough. I don't hate it, but I have had a love-hate relationship with Valentine's Day probably for the better part of my life. It was cute when I was a kid. Getting into relationships, it always seemed to add more pressure or be more of a point of contention than was necessary. So yeah, don't love it. There was a guy that we were fuck buddies for a long time, and then we were dating. And when we were like kind of making our agreements about dating, Valentine's Day was a hard no for him. He was like, you don't even know the story of Saint Valentine, because he was a Catholic boy and I was a Jewish girl. So I actually did not know the story of Saint Valentine before we started dating. So he's the one who set me straight on that. So I would like to share a little of that history and then talk about a few points of why I just can't stand the fucking holiday. Let's see. So, St. Valentine, depending on where you look it up, there's a couple of different options of who St. Valentine actually could be. One was this guy named Valentine, who was arrested and charged for not renouncing Christianity by Claudius I around 260 AD. And he was jailed with a man named Austerius, and Austerius had a daughter who was blind, and St. Valentine apparently cured her of her blindness, and then got murdered, executed, whatever, for not renouncing Christianity. And then so did Austerius, for thinking that he was cool for curing his daughter's blindness. So, yay. The other option was the second option, that's the Bishop of Tournai, also named Valentine. That was a real person, real and verified person. He was summoned to Cato's house. Cato wanted Valentine to heal his son, which is interesting because St. Valentine is touted to be the patron saint of epilepsy and beekeepers. Just so you know, nothing really to do with like our traditional Valentine's Day, but it's in there. It's in there. So I'm not really sure if the son of Cato had epilepsy. Not really sure. But he was brought there to heal him. And the deal was, okay, you heal him and then we'll convert to Christianity. And he did heal him. So they did. And then he got caught by the Roman Senate and they beat the shit out of him. Then they beheaded him. And then they actually buried his remains in different areas. So, like, his head is in one place. Like, you can still see his skull. There are different parts of him in different churches throughout Europe. And fun fact, that's like how tourism started, was people going around looking at religious relics, which was generally like saints' body parts. Because if you look up like any holiday that's rooted in like a saint, they fucking died. They fucking died somehow. Anywho. So some of the more flouncy bits that get associated with Valentine's Day is like in the first story, the Valentine in that one supposedly like fell in love with the blind daughter and then gave her a love letter and signed it Your Valentine. Um, in the other story, there was, hearsay that he used to perform marriages in the woods. And honestly, when my old boyfriend told me the story, that was his point of contention. He was like, they fucking killed him because he was performing marriages for Christians in the woods. That's fucked up, and I'm not gonna celebrate that shit. So, yeah, there you go. Nice little chunk of history for you. Um, Now let's get down to the fucked up parts beyond that, because you know, like you think about February 14th, Valentine's Day, and love and little notes and candy and sweet things and sweet smelling things and red roses. And really, we're just celebrating the day that these two fucking guys got killed. Yeah, that's pretty much what we're marking. So, anywho, um, another point that I just can't stand about the history of it, real quick, before I get into the points of why I can't stand what it's become, um, is that it it might be getting conflated with the Roman pagan festival of Lupercalia. And honestly, that was like a fertility festival where they were like running around naked, and there was like a lottery um, for the men to like, join up with the women and, get frisky. It was sexuality. It was debauchery. It was ritual animal sacrifice, all of that Roman stuff. Um, and now it's just like conflated. Like you don't see any of that. There's none of that unless you're like in the kink community or something. Like there's none of that. Like sure, you might buy your girl some sexy lingerie. Okay, all right, I can see that. But you're not out there being a heathen. Nah, like you're like getting Hallmark cards, and it's become like way more commercialized. And that is actually part of the history too, is that when it got taken over basically, or when it blew up to be commercialized, was because of the Victorian age. I think Cadbury made the first heart-shaped box of chocolates in the 19th century. I know that the cards that we know now, they came out in like the early 1900s, like the first Hallmark, like defined Valentine's Day official cards. That was in the early 1900s. And so it just made it so, straight laced and commercialized, like so many other holidays became. I'm guessing because, now you can advertise about it because there's circulars and papers, and this is how we do things now. We produce, and we sell, sell, sell. And that's like my biggest fucking problem with this, but we'll get to that. So the history's out of the way a little bit. You're caught up to what Valentine's Day is for many of us now. So, number one, I do not like that Valentine's Day can force the beginnings of relationships. So, what I mean by that is you take someone out somewhere around Valentine's Day. It doesn't even have to be like actually on February 14th. Like, all that's coming to mind right now is Ryan on The Office being like, I asked her out the night before Valentine's Day about Kelly. And while that's funny on that show, and they have this ongoing thing over the seasons, it's not funny that it's a reality for a lot of people. Like a lot of people don't want to start or continue dating someone, but because they did it surrounding February 14th, there's like this expectation that they're supposed to fucking stay together. And that's wild and terrible and terrifying. So when I'm working with my ladies who are getting back in the dating scene, I'm like, just shut off your app. Shut off your fucking app for like the week leading up to Valentine's Day. Just mark it off your calendar. Go take yourself out on a fucking date. on February 14th. Fuck that. Don't end up stuck with some asshole because you decided to say yes to a date near February 14th. All right. Coming up next, we got the pressure. All right. So, number 2 is if you're in a relationship, right? You're in a relationship. You guys are on board. You both like Valentine's Day. You like it as a way to show your love for each other. Cool, cool. Then the pressure of the gift. And if you start out hitting it, you'd better keep hitting it, right? You fuck up 1 year, that other person is going to be like, what's going on? Why don't you love me as much? Why don't you care as much? Like, imagine like you're coming home from work and you realize what fucking day it is, and you just grab something from the end cap. I've seen like stories on this where like women are actually mad that this is what they got. I'm like, all right, well, dude was coming off a 15 fucking hour shift. He stopped at the grocery store, realized what day it was, and he grabbed you something, honey lamb. I don't think it's worth the drama that it creates, I guess is where I'm going with that. And the pressure that it creates. It's so unnecessary. And it it just like it just can explode. It can cause an entire argument. It can cause resentment just because of this little stupid fucking day. So I just the pressure to perform, right? Now, it's also easy to conflate someone's offerings on Valentine's Day with the level of affection that they hold for their partner. This kind of bounces off the last point, right? Like, if your partner got you something huge last year, the big oversized teddy bear and 24 long stem roses and a necklace that had engraved on the back of it, us forever, whatever, right? All the material goodies. And then this year it was a homemade meal. It doesn't mean that they love you less. It doesn't have to mean that. It just means that that's where their headspace was this year, or that's where their emotional availability was, or they just really wanted to spoil you with a homemade meal, Just try really hard to resist the urge to make it mean something that it doesn't. And I think that goes for gifts at any time, really. Number 4 is the social media show out. I do not love it. I don't. I don't participate in it, actually. Getting on social media and having like those doe-eyed pictures and, oh, that's the only person for me in the world. And, I'll never find anyone better and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, that's great. I think maybe I don't like it because I know there's more to the story, and just because it's February 14th, you don't have to sugarcoat that, and you also don't have to do it in such a way that is exclusive. Like, really, I think that's what bothers me about it is you're really not thinking about who might be looking at your page when you do that and how damaging it can be. The people in our world who aren't partnered up have enough reminders. We don't got to add to it. All of this is my opinion, by the way. So it's not like this is like a statistician's fact. This is my opinion of the day. You can agree or disagree with it. If you're listening, God, I hope you agree with it, because you probably agree with 90% of the shit that comes out of my mouth then. I do think that if we do the social media show out, then maybe there should be some kind of like day of reckoning. Like, okay, so February 14th, you say you love, 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 love. March 14th, you jump on. Oh, that would be kind of cute because that's Pi Day. Sorry. But all right, so let's pick a different day. How about no, not 15th, because that's the Ides of March. Shit. When could we do it? And you don't want to do it on St. Patrick's Day. Don't get me started on that religious story. Anywho, all right, so we pick a day a month or two later, and you get on social media and you show what some of the not super sugar coated parts of your relationship are. You get real on social media. It's like the un-Valentine's Day, right? You say, this motherfucker won't stop cleaning my pans with the wrong sponge. Or this chick, I don't know how many times I've told her not to do this with my clothes, but she does this with my clothes. Or, whatever it is that's driving you two insane about the division of labor in your household. Yeah, division of Labor Day. That's what we should have. And it should be halfway between Valentine's Day and Labor Day. So do the math and tell me when that is. All right, the next one, I need to calm down and stop joking because it is quite serious. The next one is coercion, okay? If there is a holiday that it is implied that sex is supposed to happen on this day, like, I know I made the reference that, this used to be a Roman holiday and, go around debauchery and what have you. What it's come to is definitely more between people who are partnered up, right? So there's a sexpectation that comes with this holiday. And babes, if you're not in the mood, if you don't want to, you should not feel like you have to. I got to bug some of my friends who do research and just find out, like, is there any research on how many people get coerced into having sex on fucking Valentine's Day? I don't even know how you would look that up. I'm going to have to ask the people I know who do this for a living, because I just want you to know there's no day that's so special that you have to perform sexually or emotionally if you are not up for it. So I do not love the coercive nature of Valentine's Day. The next few are for my single folks. My single folks, for fuck's sake, I remember how shitty it used to make me feel being single on Valentine's Day. Watching everybody get, their stupid flowers and candy and cards, jewelry, whatever it was. And, probably stumbling home from the bar, like, watching Jenna Jameson and whacking off or something and going to bed. I know my life was awesome. But I do want to say that, yeah, it sucks. It sucks having that thrown in your face. I want to acknowledge that, yeah, I feel for you. And I don't want you to feel like I'm pitying you. I want to give you my empathy. I want you to understand that I understand. And it's part of why I feel passionately about this, because I feel like it's a day that we don't have to make people feel shitty. And I feel like a lot of the ways that this holiday is marketed absolutely make parts of the population feel shitty. Next point is part of that. I walked into the grocery store and holy shit. Like, holy fucking shit. 10,000 balloons, roses everywhere. And this is like a week and a half before the holiday. Like, what's going on here? What's going to happen to all those flowers and all those chocolate covered strawberries? Like, I'm just concerned. I'm concerned about our level of waste in this fucking country when I walk into a store gearing up for a fucking holiday, because it's so intense and there's so much. And you know that shit ain't all getting bought. Where does it go? Where does it go? Like, why don't we have a system for that where we can give those things to like senior citizens or people in group homes, or people who are not getting exposed to like any kind of touch or family on a regular basis? It just kind of makes me want to barf when I walk in and see all that. I cannot imagine how it would feel if, on top of that, then it made me start questioning all this stuff about my life. Also, for the singles, if this has been 6 weeks of hell between New Year's, not being with someone. Oh, I was asleep by like 10:30 on New Year's, so don't know about all that. But if it's been weighing on you, now I really hope that by today, by February 15th, it's not weighing on you anymore. Like, okay, you made it through like the confidence course of the year, right? Feeling upset from like New Year's Eve to February 14th. Okay, maybe this can be the end marker for that. It just sucks because I want you to feel like you're a magical, sexy unicorn goddess. And I know that this capitalist bullshit and making you feel like it's a bad thing to be alone on these days, that just fucking sucks. I mean, I really don't have like an evidence point here. I just know, like I know that it fucking sucks and it makes you feel depleted and it makes you feel like the other. And I fucking hate it. Like, if I could take on every lady who felt that way, I would. And I would just be like, you are a goddess. And also, here are the things that are amazing about you. And you don't need to find anybody to be any kind of amazing because you already are. The end. My next point is about those people who are in a relationship and then fucking Valentine's Day rolls around. Now, we already touched on one point about coercion, but what if it's not that intense? What if it's just you have to sit there and like revisit the fact that your relationship is not what you thought it was going to be? And each commercial, each time you have to walk into that store, each time you go to Target or Walmart or, a restaurant, for fuck's sake, everything is decorated with all these like hearts and love and blah, 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 blah. And you just got to like be reminded over and over again. And then, you start to think about it more, and it doesn't just go away. It doesn't go away on February 14th like I wish it would. Those thoughts linger, and I just don't think it leads to us having like the best relationships with our relationships. And the last reason is that capitalist fucking a machine. Now, this holiday is enormous. It is candy, greeting cards, flowers, dinners out, trips, clothing, lingerie. It is all of the gifting, right? I mean, it says in this Fox story that I read, Fox Business, $185. That's what the average American spends on this holiday. $185. You got that laying around? Couldn't go to something better? 25.8 billion is what Americans were expected to spend on gifts for Valentine's Day. Seriously, there is absolutely other shit we could be spending that money on. I just think it's gross. I think that it has become such a Hallmark holiday. I think the expectation of the gifts, and I think that the extent of the gifting has just gotten out of control. And I just really like the idea of sticking it to the man. And when they project that Americans are going to spend $25 billion on this bullshit, like not spending that money on that bullshit. I just think that would be the most fun ever. So yeah, to round it up, look, the history of it is bullshit. It brings in a lot more negative feelings, I think, than it is really worth. And the capitalism of it, I can't stand it. So these are the reasons for me that Valentine's Day is a sham. I would love to hear if you agree with me or if you're like, you're just the bitterest, buddy. I can't stand it. Also, a little fun fact. Today, February 15th, is Singles Awareness Day. And it was started by a high schooler who didn't want to wallow and feel bad about Valentine's Day and also wanted to take advantage of the savings on candy the day after Valentine's Day. So he created this holiday on February 15th. So, there's a little fun fact. I hope that everyone is taking life a little less seriously. And I hope that you are living your best life. And I will talk to you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to Storytime with the Intimacy Ally. We hope you learned a bit more about putting the fire back in your romantic relationships, exploring communication and emotional readiness in all relationships, and how to expand your definition of intimacy so you can reach your relationship goals. Go to theintimacyally.com to subscribe and never miss an episode. Follow the links in the show notes to social media and events. Till next time, keep on learning, growing, and thinking. Storytime with the Intimacy Ally podcast is meant for educational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered as health or mental health advice.